Alrighty, there we go. We're all fixed now after a little bit of technical issues as we get settled into things. We are back with 5G United States Cup 2026. It is the round of 16 minor league upper bracket we are dealing with here. Some North California C versus Florida C, the 4th seed of each team. And it does look like it is the first pick of NorCal to be Nomad 4. And ready, getting into things, as I will need bans. I will need the bans later. Just a second as I get everything set up. And in the meantime, of course, we can talk about the teams here. NorCal C with their highest seeding ever here. They have struggled to put together a full roster in the past. Perhaps surprisingly for such a powerful state. No, they've had so many strong performances, winning the initial 5USC back in 2022 in the Major League with their A team, and then of course winning minor league last year with their B team. But over the years, the C team has sort of gotten the shorter end of the stick. 4 players a couple years ago, and finally putting together a 6-man roster just last year. And once again, putting together an even stronger 6-man roster, or 5-man and 1 woman, I should say, as we are getting into things here. Nomad 4 Tech is their pick. It's going to be Trilinear, I Love Kumiko, also known as Piki, and Tree in for the side of NorCal. Meanwhile, Florida C team on the other side. We in for, if I can just find everything. And it does look like we need some panics to get Molink and Pickle Rick to things. Florida C, yeah, they've been pretty solid minor league team over the year. Pretty strong presence. Seed 14 in their first appearance in 2024, and then Seed 8 last year. This year, having a little bit of a step back into Seed 13. Of course, losing HLV to the B team, as well as Big Boy to the B team. But getting some new members and rounding out their talent list. None the same. Of course, all 6 players still holding on. Evidence of a strong recovery from year to year. Ever so slight lead in the favor of NorCal, just due to this incredible accuracies. Looking at Peaky, 99.5. I mean, there's a reason why this man was on the A team last year. Coming all the way down to C in a bit of a shocking trend of events to some. It's going to be Malink, the first to break. Actually, Yusei Keek also following up right behind him, right at the end of that first TI section, spinning his cursor in a little bit of frustration there. The score lead does go over to NorCal. There are a couple fast sliders here. Don't want to get caught out. And it does look they are acclimating fine after the break. Checking in on the score lead and not quite letting it get to their heads. Score lead has already increased nicely, but here we do go into a little bit of a build-up section, into a slider stream. It's only going to catch out Malink, but hold on, there's a triple reset on the side of NorCal right after, as the Ki begins. It's going to be traded out by USA Keek, Soapy, Colrick, the only remaining combo on the side of Florida. Not going to be able to pull things quite all the way back, and actually it looks like Trilinear was just a banjo break. So yeah, definitely not going to be able to make anything happen there. Tree and Peaky will fall, but Trilinear is there to hold on to things for them. Close out. Nice FC. So quite a strong performance and team score from NorCal C to get things started. Having a little bit of a bone to pick with the state of Florida, they are, especially in the round of 16 in particular, running into their B team last year in the second round. Also, the only round that they had all 6 of their 6 players on the roster playing all the other matches, excluding qualifiers, with only 5. As I finally have an opportunity to get these bans on the board, we're looking at a Nomad 2 ban for NorCal, and then a Nomad 1 and Hidden 1 ban for Florida, and then a Hidden 2 ban for NorCal. California historically stayed really strong on Hidden, so of course there will be lots of raised eyebrows when they see that ban. We'll talk about it later, as it is Flex 1 to be picked. Florida. Talking about these Florida players a little bit. These Floridians. It is a bit of an interesting team they've managed to stitch together this year, losing a lot of their talent, as I was saying earlier, to the B team. Both HLV and Big Boy getting those promotions, and only USA Keek and Joverte to stay from year to year. 4 new players: Malink, Onks, Pico, Rick, and Miyako Best Girl. And funny enough, there's no real core to this team. They sort of really complement each other's skill sets really well. You have a nice, healthy mix of players and skill sets. They've somehow managed to quilt together into a team that is quite cohesive. So you have USA Keek for the easies and the controls. Of course, we did just see him in for the Nomad 4 control-based skill set tech. And then you have Onks in also for some reading, and also quite a good fill player, so sort of just filling out any of the remaining holes in the rest of the team. If there were to be a glue, per se, to this team, it might be him. And then Malink we're looking at as the homie's little brother, who can also aim. And then the rest of them, it's going to be Pico, Rick, also a little bit of a little homie, pretty good at the Nomad 2s, and not going to be, they will be in for this one, however, on the Hard Rock Anti-Mod, so some CS 6.5 gaming. And then the last 2 players, it's Miyako Best Girl for some DT speed and tapping, covering the more intense mechanics. And Joverte, good on the reading and also on the precision, and just in general covering some gimmicks. I'm not sure what's going on with Bu. Looks to be on the wrong map. We'll have to try and see if we can get him reloaded. And it does look like things are fixed. On the other side of the lobby, we do have Pancakes in on the Hidden, not on the easy, surprisingly enough, as I do know he does like to SS some of these easies when they're anti-mod, but when the map is this easy, ironically enough, he does like to just go for the Hidden FC, but finding some struggles on the aim in this first TI section, and it's just Bu to hold on as we approach the end of it. On the other side, Pico, Rick, and Malink holding on to their FCs with the double hard rock. Tree also finding an unfortunate miss in that section into some linear grid aim sliders, slider jumps, and all 3 FCs still holding on as we go into the break. And we are back into the action. Link and Pico Rick, I mean, this old style aim on some awkward patterns, but a little bit of pleasant visual symmetry. Link and Pico Rick are going to be able to keep up with the reading on the AR-10, but Joverte struggling a little bit more than his compatriots on the Hidden, and NorCal have built up some nice recoveries. The score lead is around 120k, not quite going either which way at the moment. Bu, of course, matching one of the Hard Rock FCs, and the combined forces of Tree and Pancakes trying to make up for the other. But the longer this clock ticks, better things get for Florida. Especially with Joverte finally finding a recovery and pushing that score lead up to 150k. Into the ending sections of the map, and Florida finding a little bit more consistency than NorCal. Tree with an unfortunate break in the first PI section. Of course, it's still comebackable, especially with Malink dropping his FC there. Joverte and Pico really having to hold on into the end, but unfortunately for NorCal, that is going to be Tree dropping the recovery in a bit of a delayed trade. And despite Bu's best efforts on the Hard Rock FC and Pancakes on his recovery, not going to be enough. Pico, Rick, and Malink doing more than enough work throughout the course of that map, and score lead will settle at just about 100k as Florida find their way onto the board, trading first picks with NorCal. Now, I would like to take a moment to talk about these bans moving back to the map pool scene. Perhaps a couple of unexpected bans from NorCal being such a hidden heavy state. And it always feels like there is no shortage of NorCal players who play hidden. But you look at... I mean, you're looking at this Florida roster, and not only the scores that they've shown, but USA Keek, grinder on the easy. Joverte, really good gimmick player, and pretty good reader as well, as he's shown, and as well as Onks. And then you look at the other side, you have a couple really good players on that with Pancakes, especially, most notably. But then after that, you're not really sure who your second and third players are necessarily. You have, I mean, it's most definitely not going to be Bu or Tree. So then you're kind of looking between Piki, who is more known for his Hard Rock and Nomad 3 control skill sets. And then you have Trilinear, who is quite well all-rounded. But still, even then, you still need a third player. And then you're looking at Emily, who is supposed to be their hidden specialist. And I would definitely say she is, but not always the most confident. We will see a Nomad 3, so following up the control victory in the Nomad 4 earlier with the Nomad 3. Just went a little bit swingy in the rhythm, maybe opening up an angle for a Hard Rock 2 pick later on with this one. Especially with Bu on your team, that man winning it all in minor league last year on that NorCal B team. Putting in lots of good work on the Hard Rock 2s, the Hard Rock 3s, and of course also the free mods on Hard Rocks whenever Thrylos couldn't cover it with his raw aim. Of course, we're looking at Iki, I Love Kumiko in the bottom center left of your screen. This man is so good at Nomad 3. It cannot be expressed just how good he is. I mean, he was on A team for a reason last year. And like, I think he just FC'd Nomad 3 in NorCal tryouts, which is an SR that is definitely nothing to scoff at. Does look like the third players, or actually Bu also swapping out, so the second and third players to surround him on the Nomad 3, definitely looking like a bit of a peaky pick, but of course his supporting cast is going to be Trilinear and Emily. On the other side, I'm not entirely sure who the best picks for Florida would be. Of course, they do have some pretty good players on the control skill sets, namely USA Keek. We're going to be looking at him for a good score, and maybe looking at Onks as well. Of course, his reading ability going to be hopefully be translating to some good stuff on the swing gimmick, and then going to be filling out with Malink, who may be a bit of a weaker link. Not to say that they can't play the map, but when you're going up against the likes of Kiki and whoever he has as the supporting cast, it is quite scary. especially on Nomad 3. Also, Nomad 3 being one of those skill sets where it is a bit of a toss-up unless you just have that one player who can play extremely proficiently. And Peaky most definitely is one of those players who can play extremely proficiently. Now, funny enough, as I say that, he is the one to find the break in the intro for NorCal. Trade out a little bit later by Onk, so slight advantage to NorCal. Unfortunate for him, a little bit frustrated at finding the over-aim on the flow aim there, and good news for NorCal as it is USA Keith to drop his combo. Just Malink on a recovery as well. Not a lot of combos on the side of Florida, and not quite living up to the expectations on their skill on the control skill sets. Looking at both Emily and Trilinear holding on to some nice FCs into a bit of a slider aim section, some flow aim, and there goes Malink as well right at the end of it. The big 1/3 pattern catching him and bringing his combo down as Trilinear and Emily both hold on. Showing a little bit of struggles in the pattern, but now she's going to be the only FC remaining on the side of NorCal as Trilinear finds a little bit of a shitness there. On the other side of Florida, however, we do have USA Keek and Onks on some nice recoveries, so this lead for NorCal not going too far anywhere yet, trying to push towards 200k, especially with Emily on the FC. And Peaky building a recovery, but Onks and USA Keek just a couple steps ahead. Malink going to be dropping in the slow section, though. And that is going to slow Florida's stemming of this bleeding as they do just continue bleeding more and more score. The longer Emily is able to farm this easier part of the map for some free combo. Careful on those 1-2s to not oversnap them. And we are into a bit of a breather section for her. Speaking of breather sections, Florida also getting some nice combo on their recoveries as well here. USA Keek, Onks, but we can say the same for Peaky as well as Trilinear. Going to be a little bit further behind. Malink finding another break though, and there goes USA Keek as well, and there goes the entire team wipe from Florida. And that is going to be that for this map. Emily finally finding a break in the last Ki. Unfortunately, not quite able to close out the FC, but there is Peaky right behind her to pick up any scraps that will be needed. And there's just no scraps left. Probably just a little bit frustrated about his individual score, but this is more than enough team score to take this point. They're in no more danger. As looking pretty comfortable with a really solid team score, really solid individual scores over all around, both on the Nomad 3, Nomad 4, and now on the Nomad 3 as well. Perhaps a little bit leaning on Emily, but overall, pound for pound, player for player, just a little bit better across the board on this one. And that is definitely going to be quite the confidence boost for Emily there. 1,000 combo, the highest combo in the lobby. Of course, just before this match, she did play another tournament match in a 1v1 in another tournament against a Major League player that's Varka. I believe he's from Colorado. Not entirely sure, but she did manage to take the win there 6-3, so probably feeling pretty good coming into this match. And it's really showing in such a strong performance to start with their first map in and getting her team the victory. Of course, the pick does go back to Florida C. And going to be looking for how to attack this NorCal roster. We see the reading ban in the Hidden 2. We see a bit of a tapping ban in Nomad 2 as well. So maybe thinking about the easy or maybe the DT2, the DT3, some of those, maybe even a DT1 or DT4, but then of course you are picking into some of those stronger players on NorCal. When you do take out the tapping elements from the DT, you're picking into Peaky, you're picking in to BU, you're picking into Tree. all who have some ridiculous skill cap on the mechanics, is going to be the easy, and I do quite like this pick for Florida. You are picking in to Pancakes, who did just SS the easy last round. But, and there's a big but, USA Keek, Joverte, and Onks. So that does make actually 3 buts for Florida. For quite a rebuttal. I think this is one of the very rare times we got to see the easy this weekend, actually. I know we saw it a couple times in Major League, namely in the other NorCal match, actually, which is up against Texas yesterday morning. That was quite an intense affair. But definitely seen this banned more often than not. Interestingly, NorCal leaving it up, maybe not so... excuse me, maybe not feeling so comfortable on the hidden flow aim on the AR8, but more maybe feeling like the easy mechanics are a little bit more accessible for them. More willing to play this, but you know USA Keek is going to have grinded this map. You know, he knows all the rhythms, all the overlaps, which, to be fair, there aren't a ton of, but there's enough alongside the regular density that you'll have with easy to make this quite difficult to access if you don't actually know how to read easy and how to parse these patterns when the AR is something under 5. And also, of course, something people don't talk about too much, the CS going down from 4.4 to 2.2, these big circles do clutter your screen more than you would think. And it does make patterns too difficult to parse every now and then, simply due to the more cluttered nature of things. I do think we need a little panic to get things in here. And there we go. We are getting into the map. Of course, USA Keek, accompanied by Onks and Joverte, is reading buddies on this Florida team. It's going to be Pancakes looking to put up another high score on the easy this week. This time accompanied by Trilinear and Kiki, actually. It turns out this man can read if he practices the map. So what can't this man do? Of course, this map, one of the interesting parts of it is these little buzz sliders that you'll see quite often sprinkled throughout. Of course, if you do play it through just a couple of times, or you watch the video in the showcase, the replay, you will be quite comfortable. Here comes a bit of a difficulty reading section. There goes Joverte on the misread overlapped sliders. Everyone on the side of NorCal still to hold a double SS on Pancakes and Trilinear. Matched by Onks, however, and USA Keek also at a very high accuracy FC still, as Trilinear and Pancakes both do drop their SSs. So Onks, the only SS in the lobby as we approach the end of this first KI. Unfortunately, he's going to find a bit of an act drop as well. But here we go into a bit of a back and forth aim section. Want to be very careful about the timing of these sliders, especially not only tracking where you're starting, the back and forth from, but also what the timing is on the buzz sliders. It does look like both teams do come out unscathed, but Joverte struggles in the first KI, making all the difference at the moment. 63,000 score and climbing in the favor of NorCal. And we will have to wait to see the next break. And that is the combo break, a back-to-back buzz slider not catching anyone. And the reading does get a little bit dense on these back and forth that do start with a triple, and you do need to make sure you're reading the rhythm correctly. Everyone holding, everyone has practiced that part of the map, but we do go into a little bit of a tapping section now, and the rhythms do just get trickier, and the map gets more and more dense as you go on here. Trilinear dropping a little bit of accuracy, but that is not what matters at the moment. What matters is the combo, this combo that Joverte dropped in. There goes USA Keek. It's going to be traded by Trilinear, but Joverte, there goes Onks on the miss-aim. You cannot be miss-aiming on this one, Onks. And I think that is going to be what sends this definitively in the favor of NorCal, as long as we don't see another strange miss. There goes Pancakes on the buzz slider, but Peaky still holding onto the FC, and it's already 150,000 score and climbing. Joverte does have the recovery that he can take advantage of, especially with Peaky dropping after the repeated reverse sliders, messing up on that rhythm, known to catch out quite a lot of players. But this is effectively, if you count Nomad, or if you're thinking about this in terms of a Nomad score difference, not an easy score difference, this is about 200,000 score in the pockets of NorCal, and this should be more than enough for them to close things out. Joverte with a very nice recovery after struggling a little bit on the reading in the first Ki, but lacking a little bit. USA keep finding some unfortunate breaks, and NorCal holding on for long enough to build up a big enough of a buffer so that they are safe into the ending. That is going to be a break point in the favor of NorCal. And Pancakes, look at that. No misses, no 50s. The slider break was just from letting go of a buzz slider too early. How unfortunate. Looked like he panicked a little bit to get to the next buzz slider a little too fast and missing out there. Pick does go back to the way of NorCal as they look to extend their lead, which is now 3-1. Entirely what they're going to be picking, but it does look like they're continuing down the train of control mechanics, and there are quite a bit of control mechanics picks in this pool. We've already seen the Nomad 4, the Nomad 3. We're seeing the DT4 now, and waiting in the wings after that is the Hard Rock 3, and I think that is just about the end of the control picks. Maybe you would consider Hard Rock 2 and Nomad 5 control due to the precision nature and also some of the alti nature of the Hard Rock 2, and then maybe even the Hidden 3, if you're thinking of that as an alt map and not an awkward aim snap aim map, or awkward snap aim map. But so quite the amount of picks that seem pretty good for NorCal C here. Of course, the DT4 is the name of this next game we're going to play. PS4 AR 10.1, finally an AR above 10 being picked in this match. Of course, can only be achieved with the double time modification. And I do expect to just see Bu and Tree in here, +1, probably Peaky. There is an argument to be made for Trilinear as well, but at that point it is a bit of preference, and I think Bu getting a little bit of a song buff from being Korean, although it could be a bit of a debuff as well, even, you know, if you do understand what they're saying, sometimes the lyrics can be a little bit distracting. Over on the other side, we do see Link and Pickle Rick sitting in the lobby at the moment. Pickle Rick having quite good skill cap from what I do here, and this map, despite the SR, it is quite deceiving. And I do think the raw mechanic skill cap is quite high on this for the difficulty of the pool. 174 BPM, but there are some 1/4 snap patterns that are quite spaced. And on top of that, you have some funky sliders where it's difficult to tell the direction of circular flow. And of course, there is that oh-so infamous linear spaced stream near the end of the map. It does look like it will be B stepping out, and it's actually Peaky and Trilinear to take his place. It's going to be Onks filling in for the last man of Florida, as somewhat expected. They are sort of just the, if anything, you could call them the glue that holds this team together, filling in for the dirty work that the rest of the team isn't quite comfortable on. But not quite a player I would say this team revolves around. Not quite enough strength to make it to that level. And we do see some early breaks from Florida in this map, as they have shown just a little bit less comfort on these control skill sets. Malink and Pico Rick, the first two to fall. Onk still holding onto the FC, however, matching that of Peaky and Trilinear. Tree on a quite nice recovery, however, as well, and that is 200,000 score in the favor of NorCal, especially as Pico, we're going to be dropping his recovery. Onk still holding on to the FC, however, and so as long as he has that, there is a shred of hope for Florida, but that shred is slowly diminishing, especially with Malink struggling to hold his combo, and there goes Onks, and there goes the anchor. 3 will drop his recovery, but Peaky and Trilinear still on this FC, their FCs into the second half of the map, and the score lead is quickly getting way out of control for Florida. 500k, almost 600k now, and it will continue to climb as long as these players from NorCal do not miss. And on the other side, it looks like Florida can't help but continue to miss. And fortunate for them, Trilinear going to be missing towards the end of that second Ki, so it's just all eyes on Peaky at this point to see if he can close this one out. The linear stream, going to be quite comfortable on it. Fortunately, missing on a little bit of a triangle control pattern there into the ending, so not closing out the FC, but he has done more than enough, and he definitely knows that he has, seeing the score difference at the break. Of course, the team score difference will eclipse 1 million into the ending. We'll see if NorCal can end up doubling Florida's score, but I don't think it quite will. Just shy of it. But still, a very, very, very strong pick from NorCal. And Florida going to be beating themselves up a little bit after giving up the break point on the easy. Backs a little bit against the wall as they have lost on reading, as they have lost on both no-mod control and DT control. Now, and the only success they found so far is the Flex 1. So they'll have to see what they can do about that. Maybe they just have to try something new, something like the tapping, which was banned out earlier. I know it is more DT, it's more high BPM mechanics, but quite different from what we saw in DT4. Of course, the AR going to be much lower. I believe it's base AR 8 on both of the DT2 and DT3. So clocking in at just shy of 9.7 after mod has been applied. But looking at the tapping roster for Florida, I think it would just be Malink and Miyako Best Girl and Pico Rick. Maybe Onks filling in for one of those. Maybe Malink, considering the homie not the most comfortable at the high BPMs on DT. So maybe Malink is the same. And we will see them finally pick into the DT tapping. The DT2 is where they want to go. Yeah, just looking at this NorCal roster, potentially a bit of a weakness. Obviously, you do have Tree, who is very good at tapping. But then after that, you're looking at players like Trilinear, Hiki, and Biu, who did fill tapping last year for his team in finals and grand finals when they needed him, but not exactly a tapping main these days. Maybe back in the day, you know, 3-4 years ago, in the days of 5USC 2023 and 2024, but not as much these days from what I am aware of. We do have all the players practicing the map at the moment. The team's trying to decide on their rosters in the last minute. Combining moment and minute. Wonderful. What are we saying? Does look like we have rosters coming into the lobby finally for Florida, as we see Malink and USA Keek. A little bit of surprise to see USA Keek in for this one. It didn't really take them as a tapping player, but Malink probably a pretty good choice. His extra proficiency on the aim skill set's also going to be helping out on this map, particularly as there is a little bit of aim requirement in this one. A little bit more spacing and a little bit more angle changing compared to the DT3. It's going to be Miyako Best Girl, their DT speed and tapping specialist, to close out the roster. But yeah, USA Keek, the only one where I really have questions. On the side of NorCal, it's going to be Tree, of course, and Trilinear, the second most likely suspect. And they're going to be closing things out with Pancakes. This man can tap. He did play tapping for C-Team last year a little bit when needed, notably in the round of 32 on the Nomad 2. And he can play some higher BPM tapping as well, but we'll have to see just how warm he is and how ready he is as we panic ourselves. Panic the last player into the map. Link is finally with us as we get into the action. Pancake's going to be the first to break, finding a little bit of discomfort in the early stages. Traded out by Miyako Best Girl and Blink, however. Don't want your DT specialist to be feeling uncomfortable in this map. Perhaps just a little bit of nerves as he tries to settle into the map. But that is your two main tapping players down already, limiting some of their score potential. As we do go into a bit of a more of an intense section as the piano picks up a little bit. USA Keek holding on to lone FC, and there goes Malink again. Just USA Keek to match the two FCs of Tree and Trilinear. And Pancakes finally building up a nice recovery, but there goes Pancakes and Trilinear both falling down, trading with Miyako Best Girl, so there is a little bit of an advantage on the side of Florida. USA Keek matching Tree's FC with a little bit of an accuracy disadvantage, around 2%. And Malink with the ever so slightest of edges on the recovery. Probably not quite enough to pull things back in their favor. This map is holding very close into the ending. A little bit of a one-thirds pattern, not going to be catching anyone off guard, claiming no names or lives as we go into the ending. Pancakes slipping up almost on the stream, and these streams do get a little bit more space. Pancakes finally going to be dropping his combo, and that could be fatal for NorCal as, wait, hold on a minute, but the scoreline isn't really going over into the side of Florida. It's staying in the side of NorCal, and I think that is thanks to Tree's 99% accuracy, and quite well doing for himself, showing a little bit of a gap between him and USA Keek, the easy grinder and not really known for his tapping, gonna be able to not even match his weight. That's still very respectable act, 96%, but not enough to match that of a tapping specialist like Tree. This man has some tapping skill cap out the wazoo, and he will be carrying his team to victory. That act really playing a very important role in NorCal taking a break point, and that's 2 break points in a row to put them on match point as well. And I think, unfortunately for Florida, this was just a bit of a poor opponent for them, a bit of an unfortunate matchup. Losing on the easy reading, losing on all of the control skill sets, both the Nomad and the DT. And now just barely losing out on the tapping as well. Only finding some success on a little bit of variance on the easiest map in the pool in the Flex 1. And yeah, it is just what I expected. It is the Hard Rock 3. And I know these players on NorCal have been practicing this map, trying to figure out the offset, trying to figure out the rhythm and how to act this. As this is a bit of an act battle, in fact. Maybe not what you might expect. But when the circles are as large as they are with the Hard Rock mod, CS 3.9 after Hard Rock, base CS 3, you do sort of get to a point where the mechanics of the map are so easy. It is a little bit difficult to miss. Namely, the one hard part of this map, or hard in terms of trying to hold combo, is the slider spam section around the middle just before halfway. Going to be hard to parse the density and find those circle heads, those slider heads. But I think NorCal do have quite a solid lineup for this one. Going to be probably just Peaky, Tree, and Trilinear, as I think those 3 were the main 3 for this one. We could see BU in for this as well, as he is good for Hard Rock things. Every Hard Rock thing. Looking at the other side, USA Keek, this should be a pretty good map for him as well. Pretty good on the control and reading, although... And we did see decent amount of comfort on the higher AR just now. 9.7 that was on the DT2. Gonna be accompanied by Pico Rick and Miyako Best Girl for a little bit of skill cap and tapping on Miyako Best Girl. This map does have some tapping elements to it, and of course, the high AR, the AR-10, the reading struggles. Probably a good idea to have Miyako, their DT specialist, in for this one. Looking at the other side, it does look like it will just be Tree and Trilinear to accompany Peaky. GLHFs are in the chat, and Florida backs up against the wall with another bullet in the chamber, and NorCal just has so many bullets. This is a fully loaded revolver as they shoot one control-pilled map after another into the chest of Florida C, and this is looking to be the final one to knock them down. Time and again, NorCal finding success on these control skill sets. Maybe the Hard Rocks mod will tell a little bit of a different story this time, but thinking back to the GT4, it certainly was not the case. If anything, the different story was an even more dominant win for NorCal. So, gotta be hoping for something, and immediately, Miyako Best Girl finding a missed slider head there, and even more struggles in the slower section. The accuracy is quite nice for them, 91, but this teammates 84 and 87 on Pico, Rick, and Malink, and I think this might just be the beginning of the end. We have still yet to reach that side apart, and here we go. However, so some chances to break for the NorCal side. Tree, Trilinear, and Peaky looking at all three of them, but instead, it is Miyako Bestro and Malink to break. Peaky breaking, as does Tree, so it's just Trilinear to hold on up against the lone FC of Pico Rick, but they have cleared the woods for the most part. That is really the only hard part of this map, and it's just about the consistency to dribble this one into the goal for NorCal at this point. Trilinear, 600 combo, and there goes Pico Rick as well. There is nothing left to do in this match, I fear. Florida having a very well-balanced roster coming into this year of 5USC, but their upper bracket run will not go on for so long as NorCal kick the dead horse while it is down. 95 accuracy on Trilinear and 2 players below 90 on Florida. Miyako alone at that 90% mark and continuing to struggle on the combo. And we are just walking this one in. Of course, Florida do have the low bracket run to look forward to. But for now, NorCal. It's all coming up NorCal this weekend. And C-Team will be joining their B and A-Team brethren in their advance through the upper bracket. No upset here as they do secure their win in a swift 6-1 fashion, knocking Florida down into the losers bracket. Florida, of course, their opponent has already been determined as we are closing in on the end of the weekend here. It's going to be Georgia B waiting for them, 23rd seed. So, of course, having quite the well-balanced team, they should have good prospects going for them in their lower bracket run. But for now, we must give our flowers to NorCal C, BU, Pancakes, Tree, Peaky, Trilinear, and Emily as they move on in the upper bracket to face their opponents. New York B already determined, taking the victory over Michigan B earlier this weekend, 6-2. Should be an exciting one there as they are right next to each other in seeding seeds 4-5. So an exciting one to look forward to for them next week. But for now, that has been all for us. We do still have a match going on the A stream right now. That is Connecticut A versus North Carolina A. Make sure you catch that as we will be rating you. We will be rating them. And then, of course, a couple more matches at 2 UTC and then one more at 2:30 UTC. That is going to be Steve casting Washington A versus Stateless A, and I will be joining you guys for Arizona B versus Minnesota A when the time comes. 15 minutes for now. But for now, we will be rating 5USC26. So make sure you go ahead and catch that. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you around.